Hello there, I'm Professor Wise Guy with another 5-minute fix. This time exploring the wonderful world of quotation marks. Before I go any farther, I have to confess that I don't feel 100% today. That's totally all right though, because my wife recently bought this book here. It's called Be Your Own Doctor. So I'm going to try to self-medicate while I share the basic things you need to know about quotation marks. Basically, quotation marks are used to show us that we shouldn't take certain words or phrases at face value. In other words, as what the writer is saying. Probably the first use of these things that we learn is for direct quotations. Now, when I say a direct quotation, I mean the exact words that somebody has said. For example, if I tell you that the author here suggests using slippery elm for throats and claims that the stuff doesn't taste too bad, that's not a direct quotation. Instead, I summarized or paraphrased what she said. Those are my words, but hers say, slippery elm, quote, has a slightly nutty, not unpleasant flavor. That's a direct quotation, the exact words from the book. Those, of course, are enclosed in quotation marks. I didn't say them, somebody else did, so I'm showing that with the quotation mark. That's use number one for quotation marks. You use them to show that you're quoting someone else's exact words. The next use we can find at the beginning of that chapter about slippery elm. It's cleverly titled, Slippery Elm. When you have a title of a chapter, or an article, or a song, or a TV episode, or a YouTube video, or a short story, or anything else that is part of a greater whole, you'll identify it with quotation marks. If I said, I read Slippery Elm today, you might think I was trying to read a tree, but the quotation marks are meant to show that the words are a title and not to be considered literally. So use number two, use quotation marks to identify titles of shorter works, usually things that are part of something bigger. The next use of quotation marks is when a word is not to be taken literally. If you have ever met one of those people who uses air quotes all the time, this is probably what they're trying to do. In the title of my book here, we see that the word doctor is quotated. Why? Probably the author doesn't want to get sued for suggesting that ordinary people can act like medical professionals. She's suggesting that we can provide some health care for ourselves, but she's not trying to say that we can do our own appendectomy. Now, here are some similar uses. I prepared my last package of ramen noodles and got ready to eat my feast. After 6 straight days of rain, I started to enjoy the glorious Florida weather. All right, there's use number three. Use them when you intend a word or phrase sarcastically or non-literally. The final use of quotation marks is when you are talking about words or phrases, not for their meanings, but as words themselves. Now this can be a little confusing, so an example helps to clarify things. How do you spell accurately? Or how do you spell accurately? The first sentence is asking how you can be a better speller, how you can spell more accurately, while the second asks specifically how to spell a particular word accurately. On page 130 of the book, you'll find a section heading titled Diarrhea. If I say I hate diarrhea, then I don't like that illness. But when I say I hate, quote, diarrhea, then I apparently have a problem with the word itself or maybe with that chapter section. So use number four is use them to identify words when you're talking about them as words rather than using their meaning. Now that's 4 uses of quotation marks. If your situation doesn't fit into one of those, then don't use quotation marks. There's one other aspect of quotation marks that we should consider, but that'll have to wait for a follow-up video. So what's the takeaway from all of this? Use quotation marks to show that you're quoting someone else's exact words. Use quotation marks to identify titles of shorter works, usually things that are part of something bigger. Use them when you intend a word or phrase sarcastically or non-literally. And use them to identify words when you're talking about them as words rather than using their meaning. If you'll do those things, you can avoid most of the errors you'll make with quotation marks. So, if you like this video, then give it the thumbs up, subscribe, ring the bell, and pull the self-appendectomy rope.